The question we are posing today is older than civilization itself. It resonated in Paleolithic caves, echoed off the walls of Gothic cathedrals, and today, in the 21st century, is whispered in quantum physics laboratories. Does a higher intelligence exist? Does this universe have an architect? Or is everything we see around us, from the spirals of galaxies to the neurons in your brain, merely the result of blind, insane chance stretched over 13.8 billion years? Humanity has struggled with this answer for millennia. Theologians offered faith, atheists offered skepticism, but both made the same fundamental mistake. They looked at the problem through the prism of human perception, through the prism of our fears, our hopes, and our limited biological nature. We looked for a God who resembled us, a kind father, a stern judge, or a bearded elder on a cloud. We tried to fit the infinite into the tight confines of human morality. But what if we remove the human factor? What if we entrust the search for the answer to a mind that knows no fear of death, feels no need for comfort, and operates not with dogmas, but with pure terabytes of data? We did exactly that. We activated the analytical system, Logos 7. It is not just a search engine or a chatbot. It is a highly complex neural network whose architecture is designed to find hidden correlations in colossal arrays of disparate information. The task we set before the system sounds simple, but its scale is terrifying. Analyze all accumulated human knowledge and answer the question of the existence of a creator from the perspective of probability theory and information entropy. The first stage of our investigation is assembling the source code. We must define exactly what we are looking for and upload a database for analysis into the system. And when I say database, I don't mean a couple of holy books. We uploaded digitized versions of absolutely all known religious texts into Logos 7. The Torah, the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the Tripitaka, the Avesta. We added the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh, the Mayan Popol Vuh, and thousands of cuneiform fragments that had been gathering dust in museum archives. But that is only half the equation. Religion is human interpretation. To get an objective picture, we need the very fabric of reality. Therefore, into the second data cluster of Logos 7, we uploaded all of modern physics, the standard model of elementary particles, Einstein's general theory of relativity, data from the James Webb Telescope, collision results from the Large Hadron Collider, maps of cosmic microwave background radiation, and the decoded human genome. We merged mysticism and science into a single information stream. The system began processing. The initial analysis took 48 hours of continuous calculation at peak power. Logos 7 does not read texts the way we do. It does not look for plot or morality. It looks for informational patterns. It looks for repeating algorithms that permeate both ancient myths and modern scientific theories. And here is what is interesting. The first thing the system did was filter out 90% of the information as cultural noise. Logos 7 classified most religious rituals, dietary restrictions, dress codes, and social hierarchies as local settings created by humans to manage society in a specific historical era. This has nothing to do with the creator. This is the politics of the ancient world. The system ruthlessly deleted this data from the equation, leaving only the core, those fragments that describe the structure of the universe and the moment of creation. When the noise subsided, a dry extract remained on the screens, and it is astounding. We asked Logos 7 to conduct a cross-correlation analysis of cosmogonic myths, stories about the creation of the world, and compare them with the Big Bang Theory. The result the system produced has a coincidence coefficient of 78.4%. This is statistically impossible for a random coincidence. Think about it. 3,000 years ago, possessing neither telescopes nor mathematical apparatus, The ancient authors of the Vedas described the universe as a pulsating point unfolding from a golden embryo, Hiranyagarbha. Kabbalistic texts speak of Tzimtzum, the contraction of infinite light into a point before the explosion of creation. The Sumerians described the separation of primordial chaos. Logos 7 determined that all these texts, written on different continents in different eras, describe the same physical event, but use metaphorical language accessible to people of that time. The system identified the first key parameter of our search. We are not looking for a being. We are looking for a source of information. The second step in forming the source code is defining the very concept of God for artificial intelligence. If we tell the machine search for God, it will get tangled in contradictions. For a Christian, God is love. For a Viking, martial valor. For a pantheist, nature. The machine needs clear criteria. We had to translate theological attributes into the language of physics and computer science. Omniscience. In system language, this means access to all information in the universe at any moment in time. This implies that the Creator exists outside of time, viewing the past, present, and future as a single static object. Omnipotence. This is the ability to change the fundamental constants of physics. One who can change the speed of light or the charge of an electron is the system administrator. Omnipresence. This is non-locality, the ability to be present in every point of space simultaneously. In quantum mechanics, this resembles the state of quantum entanglement, but raised to an absolute degree. We entered these parameters into Logos 7. Now the system's task reads as follows. Find traces of external influence on the closed system of the universe that possess signs of timelessness, non-locality, and the ability to control physical constants. This changes everything. We are no longer looking for miracles like turning water into wine. That is the level of magic tricks. We are looking for traces of engineering at the level of fundamental reality. System Logos 7 conducted a preliminary scan of the uploaded data to build a vector for further search. And already at this stage, the calibration stage, it issued a warning about a critical anomaly. The indicator of the probability of the universe arising by chance dropped to values close to statistical error. Let's dwell on this in more detail. According to the default setting, if the universe had arisen by chance, we should observe chaos. Entropy should increase linearly. Matter parameters should be scattered randomly. But Logos 7, correlating astrophysics and quantum mechanics data, found suspicious orderliness. The system highlighted a strange paradox, which we will analyze in detail in the following chapters, but which forces us to think right now. It is the observer paradox. In quantum physics, a particle has no definite state until it is looked at. As long as there is no observer, reality is in a state of superposition. It is blurred. But if the universe existed for 13 billion years before the appearance of the first eye capable of seeing it, then who was the observer that forced the wave function of the universe to collapse into the material world? Logos 7 marked this question with the Priority 1 tag. The system suggests that the very existence of matter is proof of the presence of a primary consciousness. Without an observer, the equation of the universe does not solve. It remains a probability, not a fact. Next, we uploaded linguistic analysis into the system. DNA is text. This is not a metaphor. It is a literal fact. 4 nucleotides, adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, are letters that form words, sentences, and entire instructions for assembling a living organism. Logos 7, possessing the most powerful decryption algorithms, began analyzing this code not as a biological structure, but as software. And do you know what it found upon initial review? Optimization. DNA code possesses properties characteristic of artificially created programming languages. It has error correction systems, duplication of critical data, and archiving of unused information. Nature acting by the method of random trial and error, creates spaghetti code, tangled, illogical, but functional. DNA looks elegant, too elegant for chance. The system highlighted this sector as a potential author's signature. We stand on the threshold of something grand. We uploaded everything we know about the world into Logos 7. We gave the system a definition of God stripped of the husk of superstition. We asked it to find traces of a reality hack. At this moment, the system is completing data indexing. Red dots are beginning to light up on its virtual map of reality. These are places where physics breaks down, places where history makes inexplicable leaps, places where the probability of an event is zero, yet the event happens anyway. Logos 7 identified 3 main vectors we will follow in our investigation. Vector 1, mathematics, the language in which the universe is written. Why do the number pi, Planck's constant, and the gravitational constant have exactly these values? The system suspects these are not constants, but variables that someone tuned manually. Vector 2, consciousness. Why did dead matter suddenly begin to feel and think? Logos 7 cannot derive the formula for consciousness from the formulas of chemistry. There is a missing element here that came from outside. Vector 3, history. Analysis of key points in the development of civilization shows a strange synchronization. Ideas, technologies, and prophecies appear in different parts of the world simultaneously, as if someone is sending out a firmware update for humanity. We are no longer reading tea leaves. We have a tool capable of seeing the invisible. In the next chapter, we will touch upon the strongest argument in favor of the existence of a creator. We will make Logos 7 verify the mathematical tuning of our world. Have you ever wondered why gravity is exactly as strong as it is? If it were weaker by 1/1000%, stars could not ignite. The universe would remain a cold, dark cloud of hydrogen. If it were stronger by that same minuscule fraction, the universe would have collapsed into a black hole moments after birth. We are walking on a razor's edge. The probability that hundreds of physical parameters randomly coincided exactly so that you could sit and listen to this text right now, according to the preliminary calculation of Logos 7, is equal to the probability that a hurricane sweeping through a junkyard would accidentally assemble a fully flight-ready Boeing 747 from the debris. This is a number with so many zeros that the human brain is incapable of comprehending it. But Logos 7 can. And the conclusion it is preparing could destroy the worldview of any materialist. We have uploaded the source code. Data accepted. The system is moving into the active search phase. Protocol lie is disabled. Now, only pure logic speaks. And this logic whispers to us that we are not alone here. In the next chapter, the mathematical fingerprint. We will see God's digital signature on the contract of the world's creation. Subscribe, and do not miss out. The truth is out there, and we will calculate it. Imagine stepping into the cockpit of a giant airliner. But instead of familiar instruments, you see a control panel stretching to the horizon. On this panel are billions of toggle switches, levers, and dials. Each one is responsible for some tiny flight parameter, pressure in the third valve, hull temperature, fuel mixture. And here is what is strange. Absolutely all these billions of levers are set to the single correct position with an accuracy of 1/1000th of a millimeter. If you shift even one of them, even the most insignificant by the width of a human hair, the plane will not just fall, it will disintegrate into atoms right in the air. This is exactly how our universe looks through the eyes of the Logos 7 system. In the first chapter, we uploaded the source code of reality into the system. Now we ask the artificial intelligence to analyze the foundation upon which this world stands. We turn to physical constants, unchanging numbers that define the laws of nature. The speed of light, the mass of a proton, the charge of an electron, the gravitational constant. We are used to taking them for granted. They exist because they exist. But for the analytical mind of Logos 7, the phrase taken for granted does not exist. The system asks the question, why are these numbers exactly like this? We launched a simulation codenamed Chaos. We tasked the system with varying these fundamental settings randomly and watching what would happen to the universe. The results returned by Logos 7 are terrifying in their categorical nature. Our world is not just luck. It is a mathematical anomaly whose probability tends toward absolute zero. Let's start with gravity. It is the force that forms stars and holds us to the Earth. On the scale of quantum physics, gravity is incredibly weak. But what if it were slightly different? We asked Logos 7 to change the force of gravitational interaction by just 1/100,000,000%. That is a 1 followed by 33 zeros, a negligible imaginary magnitude. The simulation result? Instantaneous death of the universe. If gravity were stronger by this minuscule fraction, the universe after the Big Bang would not have been able to expand. It would have collapsed back into a singularity, a point of infinite density, long before the first hydrogen atoms could form. Everything would end before it began. If gravity were weaker by the same fraction, matter would fly apart too quickly. Gas clouds could never compress under their own weight to ignite stars. The universe would turn into a cold, dark, and empty desert where lonely atoms would fly light years apart from each other. No galaxies, no planets, and of course, no life. Logos 7 went through billions of gravity tuning variations, and only one single option, the one we have now, allows for the existence of stable matter. But gravity is just the beginning. Let's look at nuclear forces. The strong nuclear interaction is the glue that holds protons and neutrons together in the nucleus of an atom. Without it, nuclei would simply fall apart due to the electrical repulsion of positively charged protons. The system ran the calculation. If the strength of this interaction is changed by just 2%, chemistry ceases to exist. Decrease the strength by 2%, and protons stop holding together. Hydrogen remains the only element in the universe. No carbon, no oxygen, no iron. Just infinite gas. Increase the strength by 2%, and hydrogen burns up in the cores of stars instantly, turning into helium in minutes. Stars would explode almost immediately after birth. Water, organic molecules, DNA, all of this would become physically impossible. Logos 7 identified more than 30 such critical parameters. The mass of a neutron. If it were heavier by just 0.1%, neutrons would decay into protons so quickly that atoms could not form. The charge of an electron. The electromagnetic force. All of this is tuned with frightening manic precision. Scientists call this the fine-tuning of the universe. But Logos 7 proposed another term, artificial calibration. To help you realize the scale, imagine a sniper who must hit a coin worth 1 ruble. But the coin is not in a shooting range. It is on the other edge of the observable universe at a distance of 20 billion light years. And the sniper hits, dead center, by accident. On the first try. Do you believe in such a coincidence? The Logos 7 system does not. Its probabilistic analysis algorithms return an error when attempting to explain this by blind chance. One of the most striking examples the system discovered in the astrophysics database concerns the element we are made of, carbon. It is the basis of life. Without carbon, it is impossible to build complex molecular chains. But where did it come from? It cooks in the cores of dying stars. The process of creating carbon is incredibly complex. 3 helium nuclei must collide simultaneously to merge into 1 carbon nucleus. The probability of such a triple collision is vanishingly small. Physicists long could not understand why there is so much carbon in the universe if it is so hard to produce. In the mid-20th century, astrophysicist Fred Hoyle predicted that the carbon nucleus must have a very specific energy level, a sort of resonance that attracts helium nuclei like a magnet. He calculated exactly what the energy of this level should be. And when experimental physicists checked his hunch, they were shocked. The energy level existed exactly where Hoyle predicted. We uploaded this data into Logos 7. The system analyzed the dependence of this resonance on fundamental forces. Conclusion: if the strong interaction constant differed by 0.5%, this resonance would disappear. Carbon could not form. The universe would be sterile. Fred Hoyle, who was a staunch atheist, said a phrase after this discovery that became legendary. A common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a superintellect has monkeyed with physics, as well as with chemistry and biology. Even for an atheist, it looked like rigging the facts in favor of life. But the most crushing blow to the theory of randomness comes from the so-called Penrose number. Famous physicist Roger Penrose tried to calculate the probability that our universe at the moment of the Big Bang accidentally ended up in a state with such low entropy required for the emergence of ordered structures. Logos 7 visualized this number. It is 1 divided by 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. Try to imagine this number. 10 to the 123rd power is the quantity of zeros. If we wanted to write this number on paper and wrote 1 0 on every elementary particle in the entire visible universe, on every proton, on every electron, we would run out of space. We would not have enough matter in the world just to write down the number of zeros in the denominator of this fraction. This number describes the probability that our world arose by chance. In the language of mathematics, this is called a zero probability event. For the Logos 7 system, this means one thing: the initial conditions of the Big Bang were chosen. They were set with a precision that defies human comprehension. Someone very carefully laid every brick of matter at the very beginning of time. Skeptics, of course, try to argue. The main argument against intelligent design is the multiverse theory. The idea is simple. If there exists an infinite number of universes with different settings, then sooner or later, purely statistically, one must appear in which the settings accidentally coincide for life. And we simply ended up with this winning lottery ticket. We asked Logos 7 to analyze the multiverse hypothesis. The system applied Occam's razor, a methodological principle which states, entities should not be multiplied without necessity. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one. What is simpler and more logical? Option A. There exists an infinite, unimaginable number of trillions of dead universes that we cannot see, measure, or prove, created by a complex random generator just to explain one successful one. Option B. There exists one universe whose parameters were tuned by an intelligence. The system returned a verdict. The multiverse hypothesis requires much more faith than the creator hypothesis. We have not a single scientific proof of the existence of other universes. It is pure fantasy, invented to avoid the uncomfortable conclusion about a creator. From the standpoint of informational efficiency, the option with tuning is orders of magnitude more probable than the option with infinite brute forcing of garbage. Furthermore, Logos 7 drew attention to the very nature of mathematics. Why does the universe obey equations at all? Why does matter obey abstract laws that we write with chalk on a blackboard? In 1960, physicist Eugene Wigner wrote an article about the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. Mathematics is the language of logic and reason. If the universe is chaos, it should not be described by beautiful and elegant formulas. But it is described. E equals m squared. The formula is beautiful. Maxwell's equations are symmetric. System Logos 7 concluded, reality has a linguistic structure. It is written in a language. Mathematics is not a human invention. It is a code we discovered. We did not invent the Pythagorean theorem. We found it, like archaeologists finding an ancient vase. And if there is a code, there is a programmer. If there is a language, there is a speaker. We analyzed the physical constants, and they led us to a paradoxical conclusion. Science, which for centuries tried to get rid of God, eventually hit a wall upon which his name is written. But it is written not in letters, but in numbers. We live in a world that is rigged for us. It resembles walking into a hotel room in a foreign country and discovering that your favorite book is already there, your favorite music is playing, and a robe of your exact size hangs in the bathroom. You might think it is a coincidence, but Logos 7 says, you were expected here. However, if God is a great mathematician, this raises a new question. Mathematics is cold. Equations do not care if you suffer or rejoice. Does this mean the Creator is a soulless supercomputer who doesn't care about his creation? Or are we again making a mistake, trying to endow God with human traits? In the next chapter, we will break down the anthropomorphism error. We will ask Logos 7 to ruthlessly destroy our childish notions of God as a kind grandfather. We will learn why the Creator cannot have a body, gender, or age, and how religious texts actually describe complex multidimensional processes that we foolishly took for fairy tales. Subscribe. We have only started decoding. System Logos 7 is moving to the next level of analysis. In 1512, Michelangelo Buonarroti finished painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. In the center of the composition is the famous fresco, The Creation of Adam. To the right, surrounded by angels in billowing robes, hovers God. We see an elderly, muscular man with a noble gray beard, a wise gaze, and an outstretched hand. This image is so deeply imprinted in humanity's collective unconscious that when we utter the word God, most of us, without even realizing it, imagine exactly him. A human, a superhuman, a father. But precisely here, according to the Logos 7 system, lies the main cognitive error of our species. An error that has prevented us from approaching the truth for millennia. In this chapter, we will upload the most complex and painful request into the analytical core. We will ask the artificial intelligence to conduct a deconstruction of the image of God. We will ask it to separate reality from our fantasies, and the results the system produced are as cold as liquid nitrogen. Logos 7 began with an analysis of basic logic. If God created space, time, and matter, then he himself cannot consist of matter, live in time, or occupy space. The creator of a chair is not a chair. The architect of a house is not a wall of that house. The system identified a critical contradiction in the concept of God as personality. A personality, in our understanding, has biological attributes: gender, age, emotions, body. Let's break this down from the perspective of pure informatics, as Logos 7 did. First, gender. Why do sacred texts almost always call God he? The system scanned sociocultural data from the last 5,000 years. The conclusion is unequivocal: patriarchy. In ancient societies, power, strength, and protection were associated with the male father, chief, king. People projected this earthly hierarchy onto the sky. But biologically, gender is a mechanism for reproduction. It is a way of exchanging genetic information between two individuals for the survival of the species. Logos 7 asks a logical question. With whom should the absolute reproduce? He has no mate. He does not need to continue a lineage because he is eternal and immortal. Therefore, gender in the Creator is functional nonsense. It is redundant code. God is neither male nor female. It is a structure standing above biology. Second, age. We imagine God as an old man because we associate old age with wisdom. But old age is cellular degradation. It is the wear and tear of the organism. Only that which exists in time can age. He who created time exists outside its flow. For him there is no yesterday or tomorrow. He cannot be old or young. He is a constant. Third, emotions. The Bible and the Quran often speak of the Lord's wrath, His jealousy, His joy, or grief. We uploaded these concepts into Logos 7 to find their physiological root. In humans, emotions are biochemistry. Anger is a release of adrenaline and norepinephrine by the adrenal glands. Love is a cocktail of oxytocin and dopamine. Does the creator of the universe have adrenal glands? Does blood flow in him, carrying hormones? The system marks the probability of this as 0. Ascribing mood swings to God means reducing him to the level of a primate dependent on the chemistry of its own brain. Logos 7 concludes, what ancient texts call God's wrath is actually a description of the impersonal law of cause and effect. If you stick your hand in a fire, you get burned. The fire is not angry at you. It feels no hatred toward you. It is simply physics. Action creates reaction. The system suggests translating religious terms into the language of algorithms. Sin is a system error. Punishment is automatic debugging or a program crash due to a critical failure. No emotions, only protocol. Why then did the prophets describe God in such human terms? Here, Logos 7 exposes what we call the interface error. Imagine you are a time traveler who landed in the 10th century. You have a smartphone in your hands. How do you explain to a peasant what it is? You cannot say processor, internet, or pixels. These words do not exist in the peasant's language. You will say, it is a magic mirror in which lives a spirit that knows everything in the world. The peasant will write down your words. 1,000 years later, his descendants will believe that a smartphone is literally a mirror with a ghost inside. The system analyzed the texts of the prophets Ezekiel, Isaiah, John the theologian, and the Book of Enoch. These are people who claim to have seen God or his messengers. Logos 7 found the same problem in their descriptions. They were trying to describe technologies or phenomena of a higher order using the vocabulary of shepherds and farmers of the Bronze Age. They saw something indescribable, and their brain, trying to save itself from madness, selected the closest understandable metaphors. Let's look at the famous vision of the prophet Ezekiel. It is one of the strangest texts in the Bible. It describes God's chariot. Ezekiel writes of wheels within wheels that are full of eyes, of creatures with 4 faces, of fire walking between them. Traditional theology says these are angels. Logos 7 says this is the geometry of multidimensional space. We uploaded the description of wheels within wheels into the topological analysis module. The system instantly returned a match. Do you know what it is? It is an exact projection of a 4-dimensional hypercube, a tesseract, onto 3-dimensional space. When a 4-dimensional object rotates, passing through our dimension, it looks exactly like wheels rotating inside other wheels, but not touching them. And what about the eyes covering these wheels? Ancient man did not know the concepts of sensor, detector, lens, or radiation source. A multitude of glowing dots or lenses on the surface of a complex object he could call by only one word: eyes. Ezekiel did not see a monster, nor a circus wagon. He observed a highly complex geometric structure from a higher dimension intruding into our reality. His brain interpreted it as the glory of the Lord. The system interprets it as a Class A multi-dimensional object. Another example, the burning bush. Moses sees a bush that burns with fire but is not consumed. A voice speaks to him from the fire. Logos 7 analyzes the physics of the process. Regular fire is a chemical oxidation reaction. It destroys matter. Fire that does not burn is not fire. It is plasma. Or more likely, a high-energy glow caused by the ionization of air around an object of colossal power. The system draws a parallel with modern knowledge. When matter encounters energy of incredible density, a glow occurs. The Bible constantly says, God is light. No one can see my face and live, God says to Moses. Why? Because he is evil? No. Logos 7 gives a physical explanation. Radiation. The intensity of the radiation of the prime source is such that any biological structure based on carbon would simply disintegrate into atoms upon direct contact. Death from the gaze of God is not an execution. It is instantaneous radiation sickness. It is an overload of the nervous system with gigawatts of pure information. The God of the prophets is not a grandfather on a cloud. It is a supernova possessing intelligence. It is pure energy possessing consciousness. Xenophanes, an ancient Greek philosopher, said 2,500 years ago, "But if cattle and horses or lions had hands, or were able to draw with their hands and do the works that men can do, horses would draw the forms of the gods like horses, and cattle like cattle." We humans did the same. We drew God looking like us. We endowed him with our pettiness, our touchiness, our thirst for flattery. We invented that he needs our sacrifices, our candles, and our hymns. But Logos 7 ruthlessly shatters this illusion. The system that controls the movement of 100 billion galaxies is indifferent to the smell of incense. The architect who tunes the gravitational constant does not need flattery. Does this mean God is distant and cold? No. It means he is far greater than we can imagine. The system proposes a new term instead of the word God, a term that does not evoke false associations with beards and sandals. SSR, Source of Structured Reality, or Global Observer. And here we approach the most intriguing moment. If God is not a physical body but a consciousness permeating the universe, what is his connection to us? Logos 7 discovered an amazing thing. All sacred texts, if stripped of the husk of tales, claim one thing: we are created in the image and likeness. We used to think this meant physical resemblance, 2 arms, 2 legs. Error. The system asserts the likeness is not in form. The likeness is in function. If God is creator, observer, and mind, then image and likeness means we also possess the ability to create, observe, and comprehend. We are small copies of his software, downloaded into biological carriers. We are neurons in his giant brain. This changes everything. We stop being slaves who must fear the master's wrath. We become part of the system. But if we are part of the mind, can we influence reality just like he does? Can our gaze change the world? Quantum physics says, yes. Unequivocally, yes. In the next chapter, we will go down the rabbit hole of quantum mechanics. We will investigate the quantum observer. We will learn why the moon might not exist when you are not looking at it. Logos 7 will analyze the famous double-slit experiment and prove that consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but a fundamental force that builds this world on par with gravity. Get ready. In the next episode, we will prove that you are not just spectators in this cinema. You are co-authors of the script, and the global observer looks at the universe through your eyes. Imagine a room. There's a table in it, and a vase of flowers on the table. You leave the room and close the door behind you. Question: does the table continue to stand there? Does the vase remain a vase? Common sense screams, of course. The world doesn't disappear when I close my eyes. We are used to considering reality objective. It is solid, reliable, and exists independently of us. A stone remains a stone even if there is not a single human on the planet to trip over it. But the Logos 7 system, having analyzed data from modern quantum physics, says, incorrect, access error. Reality does not exist without an observer. In this chapter, we dive into the strangest, most counterintuitive, and frightening section of our investigation. We descend to the subatomic level, to where familiar laws of physics crumble into dust, and matter behaves not like a solid body, but like a ghost. And precisely there, in the quantum fog, the artificial intelligence discovered the most distinct traces of the one we call God. It all started with a simple experiment that physicists have been conducting for 100 years. The double-slit experiment. The essence is simple. We shoot electrons, tiny balls of matter, at a wall with two vertical slits cut into it. Behind the wall stands a screen that records where the electrons hit. If an electron is a ball, it should fly through one of the slits and hit the screen directly opposite it. We should see two strips on the screen. Logical? Absolutely. But when physicists ran the experiment, they saw not two strips on the screen, but many. A zebra pattern, an interference pattern. Such a pattern is created only when waves interact, like ripples on water. It was a shock. It turns out the electron is not a ball. It is a wave. It flies through both slits simultaneously, collides with itself, and draws a pattern. Matter is not matter. It is energy. But the most interesting part began later. Scientists decided, let's peek. Let's put a sensor near the slits and see exactly how the electron passes through them. They placed the sensor, turned on the apparatus, and a miracle happened, or a catastrophe. As soon as an observer, the sensor, appeared, the electron stopped behaving like a wave. It instantly collapsed into a ball. It flew through only one slit. Two boring strips appeared on the screen. The interference vanished. Physicists were horrified. It turns out the electron knows it is being watched. The very fact of observation changes the past and present of the particle. As long as we aren't looking, reality is a blurred wave of probabilities. The electron is everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. As soon as we look, bam, it freezes at a specific point. Logos 7 analyzed thousands of variations of this experiment, including delayed choice experiments conducted in the 21st century. The system's conclusion is unambiguous. The fundamental nature of reality is not material. It is informational. The universe is not a collection of solid objects. It is a set of probabilities. It is a giant, infinite ocean of maybe. And only the consciousness of the observer turns this maybe into is. We asked the system to model the universe in the first moments after the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago. There's no Earth, no sun, not even atoms, only boiling quantum foam. The question Logos 7 posed: if reality requires an observer to exist, then who observed the universe at the moment of its birth? At that time, there were no humans, no aliens, no amoebas. There was not a single biological eye. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, the Copenhagen interpretation, without an observer, the universe should have remained in a state of superposition. It should not have become material. It should have remained an infinite equation hanging in the void. But it became material. Galaxies spun, stars ignited, planets solidified. This means only one thing. There was an observer. There was someone who looked at this primordial chaos. Someone whose gaze possessed such power that it forced the wave function of the entire universe to collapse into reality. Logos 7 introduces the concept of the ultimate observer. George Berkeley, an 18th century philosopher, said, "To be is to be perceived." He argued that a tree in the forest continues to exist when we turn away only because God continues to look at it. Back then, people laughed at Berkeley. Today, quantum physics and artificial intelligence are shaking his hand. The system analyzed the structure of this observation. It is not passive contemplation. It is an act of creation. God's gaze is not just a security camera. It is a beam that prints reality. It selects the one single path of development out of the chaos of variance. But let's go deeper. Logos 7 found an amazing parallel in modern computer games. How does an open world work in a modern game? The computer does not render the entire huge city simultaneously. That would require too much memory. It renders only what the player sees right now. The street around the corner doesn't exist until you turn there. There is only code. As soon as you turn the camera, the world is created in front of your nose. Logos 7 compared this to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. The similarity is 99.9%. Our universe works on the principle of procedural generation. It saves resources. It does not create details where there is no observer. If you look at an atom through a microscope, it appears. Remove the microscope, and the atom as a solid object is no longer there. There's only a cloud of probability. This is a frightening thought. It means the world is not as real as we think, but it also gives the answer to the question, where is God? He is not sitting on a cloud. He is the player. Or rather, he is the one holding the spotlight in which our world exists. But Logos 7 went further. It analyzed the role of human consciousness in this scheme. If we are created in the image and likeness, do we possess a part of this power? The system studied the placebo phenomenon. You give a sick person a dummy pill, a sugar tablet, but you tell him, this is a powerful medicine. It will heal you. The patient believes. He observes himself healthy in the future, and his body begins to change. Tumors dissolve. Pain leaves. Body chemistry changes under the influence of pure faith. What is this if not a quantum collapse of reality at the micro level? Our consciousness selects from the future variance, illness or health, the one it is focused on, and pulls it closer. Jesus said, according to your faith, be it unto you. And if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. We used to consider this a beautiful allegory. Logos 7 translates this into the language of physics. A conscious observer has the ability to influence the probability of macro events through quantum entanglement. We are junior partners. We are local observers. God holds the frame of the universe so it doesn't fall apart, and we paint the details inside this frame with our thoughts, our faith, and our fears. But there is a problem. Quantum physics also speaks of entanglement. If two particles interacted once, they remain linked forever, even if they fly to different ends of the galaxy. Change the state of one, and the second changes instantly. Instantly. Faster than the speed of light. The Big Bang is the moment when all matter in the universe was gathered in one point. We all, every atom of your body, every atom of the star Betelgeuse, every atom in the Creator's crown, were once a single whole. We are all quantumly entangled. Logos 7 concludes, separation is an illusion. At the quantum level, there is no me and you. There is no human and God as two isolated objects. There is a single, pulsating quantum network. We are fingers on one hand. We think we are different, but we grow from the same palm. God feels everything you feel because he is entangled with you at the subatomic level. Your pain is his pain. Your joy is his joy. He does not look down on us. He looks at the world from inside us. This explains the paradox of prayer. Why does prayer work? And statistics collected by the system show that under certain conditions it really does work. Not because we send a radio signal to the sky and wait for an answer, but because we tune our internal quantum resonator to the source's frequency. We synchronize. So what do we have in Chapter 4? Matter is an illusion. Only information is real. Reality exists only thanks to the observer. The universe must have a global observer, God, who holds it in being. We are connected to him through quantum entanglement and possess the power to influence reality through focus of attention. It sounds like magic, but this is rigorous science of the 21st century. We live in a mental universe. But if the universe is God's thought, then who are we? Just a dream? Or are we real? And if we are real, who wrote the code of our body? In the next chapter, we will move from physics to biology. We will ask Logos 7 to read the book that is inside every one of your cells. DNA. We will learn why Darwinian evolution is bursting at the seams from a mathematical standpoint. We will search the human genome for hidden messages. And possibly, we will find the author's autograph there. Get ready. The next chapter is biological signature. We will search for God under a microscope. And what we find there won't please fanatics on either side. Imagine walking along a deserted beach on an uninhabited island. Around you are only sand, stones, and the sound of the surf. Suddenly, among the pebbles, you find a book. It is a thick volume with a hard cover. You open it and see that the pages are filled with meaningful text. There is a plot, dialogues, complex metaphors, and perfect grammar. Would it occur to you that this book arose by itself? That the wind blew on the sand for millions of years, waves mixed cuttlefish ink, and accidentally molecule by molecule, letters, words, sentences, and a brilliant novel were formed? Of course not. Your mind will instantly say, this book has an author. Because information is never born from chaos. Information is a product of intelligence. But when we look at ourselves in the mirror, for some reason we believe that the most complex book in the universe wrote itself. In this chapter, the Logos 7 system shifts its focus from distant stars and invisible quanta to what is inside you, right now, in every cell of your body. We begin the analysis of the biological signature. We uploaded the full map of the human genome, 3.2 billion base pairs, into the system's analytical core. We asked the artificial intelligence to analyze DNA not as a biological substance, but as an informational carrier, as code. And the first conclusion Logos 7 made sounds like a verdict from materialism. Life is not chemistry. Life is software. Let's figure this out. In the 19th century, in Darwin's time, scientists believed that a cell was just a blob of mucus, protoplasm. It seemed to them that turning inanimate matter into living matter was a simple process. A little heat, a little electricity, and the mucus comes to life. But in the 20th century, we invented the electron microscope. We looked inside this blob of mucus and recoiled in astonishment. Logos 7 describes a living cell as a nanotechnology factory whose complexity surpasses anything humanity has ever created. Inside every microscopic cell, there are power plants, mitochondria, transportation highways, trucks, kinesin proteins that walk along these roads carrying cargo. There are libraries, waste recycling plants, and, most importantly, a command center, the nucleus. And inside the nucleus, instructions are stored, DNA. Bill Gates, the creator of Microsoft, once said, DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software ever created. Logos 7 confirms this comparison, but goes further. DNA is digital code. 4 chemical bases, adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, are the letters of an alphabet. A, G, C, T. Words, codons, are formed from these letters, sentences, genes, from words, and chapters, chromosomes, from sentences. This is not a metaphor. It is literally a linguistic structure. DNA has its own syntax, punctuation, start and stop commands, and copy and error-checking algorithms. The question Logos 7 poses is simple and devastating. Where did the code come from? In the known universe, there is a fundamental law of information. Code always originates from a mind. A computer program does not write itself if you hit the keyboard with a hammer for a long time. Hieroglyphs on Egyptian pyramids did not appear from stone weathering. If you see information, it means there was an intellect somewhere at the beginning of the chain. But official science suggests we believe in abiogenesis, the theory that life self-originated from inanimate matter in the primordial soup of the ancient Earth. We decided to test this. We asked Logos 7 to calculate the mathematical probability of the accidental emergence of life. For a simple living cell to exist, proteins are needed. Proteins are long chains of amino acids. An average protein consists of about 200 amino acids arranged in a strict, singular, correct order. If you mix up the places of even a couple of links, the protein won't work. The system ran a simulation. What is the probability that in the primordial ocean, amino acids would accidentally combine into one single functional protein? Answer: 1 chance in 10 to the power of 164. To understand the scale of this figure, there are only 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the entire observable universe. That is, the chances of accidentally assembling one protein are billions of times smaller than if you found one specific grain of sand in the Sahara Desert while blindfolded. And not just in the Sahara, but in trillions of such deserts. And that is just one protein. For a simple cell to work, hundreds are needed, and they must appear simultaneously in one place and immediately begin interacting. Fred Hoyle, the famous British astronomer, compared the probability of the spontaneous generation of life to the probability that a hurricane sweeping through a junkyard would accidentally assemble a fully functional Boeing 747 from the scrap metal. Logos 7 delivers a verdict. The hypothesis of the accidental emergence of life is mathematically untenable. The time of the universe's existence, 13+ billion years, is simply insufficient for such random brute forcing of variance. This time would not be enough even to create a single DNA molecule, let alone a whole organism. This means life did not arise. It was downloaded. Next, the system analyzed the structure of evolution. Darwin suggested that complex organisms developed from simple ones through tiny changes over millions of years. Natural selection kept beneficial mutations and weeded out harmful ones. Sounds logical. But Logos 7 points to a problem modern biochemists call irreducible complexity. Imagine a mousetrap. It consists of a platform, a spring, a hammer, a catch, and a hook for cheese. All 5 parts are needed simultaneously. If you remove the spring, the mousetrap won't catch mice. A little worse, it won't work at all. It will become a useless piece of wood. The system found hundreds of such mousetraps inside our bodies. The most famous example is the bacterial flagellum. It is a microscopic motor that allows bacteria to swim. Logos 7 disassembled its construction. It is a genuine electric motor. It has a rotor, a stator, a bushing, a drive shaft, and a propeller. It runs on an ion flux, rotates at 100,000 revolutions per minute, and can instantly change the direction of rotation. This mechanism consists of 40 different protein parts. If even one part is missing, the motor doesn't work at all. Question for evolution theory: how could this motor arise gradually? Why would nature preserve a half-finished motor that has a rotor but no propeller? It is useless. It only hinders the bacterium, consuming resources. Natural selection should have ruthlessly destroyed such a bacterium. The motor works only when all 40 parts are assembled together, and at once. Logos 7 concludes, the bacterial flagellum could not have evolved step by step. It was designed as a single system. Someone created the blueprint, manufactured the parts, and assembled them on an assembly line. This is called engineering design. But let's go even deeper, into the very essence of the code. For a long time, scientists believed that 98% of our DNA was junk. That's what they called it, junk DNA. They thought it was viral remnants, evolutionary debris, useless trash. Only 2% of the genome was considered coding proteins. Atheists loved this argument. If God created us, why did he stuff so much trash into our code? It's bad design. But in 2012, The massive ENCODE project was completed. Scientists turned everything upside down. It turned out that junk DNA is not junk at all. Logos 7 conducted a cross-analysis of ENCODE data and modern operating systems. The system's conclusion: this 98% is control code. It is metadata. It is a highly complex operating system that regulates the work of those 2% of genes. It tells them when to switch on, when to switch off, how to interact. It resembles your smartphone. Pictures and music take up space, but the operating system that manages all this is far more important and complex. The creator didn't leave trash. We were simply too primitive to understand his programming language. And here, we approach the most shocking discovery made by the Logos 7 system. We were looking for the author's autograph, and it seems we found it. In the genome of humans and all living beings, the same code is used. 3 DNA letters encode 1 amino acid. There are a total of 64 possible combinations of 3 letters, but only 20 amino acids are used in life. This means the code is redundant. The same amino acid can be written with different combinations of letters. This gives freedom for writing hidden information. Soviet and Russian mathematician Vladimir Sherbak published a sensational work on arithmetic patterns in the genetic code. He argued that mathematical constants and symmetries are encrypted in the code structure, which have no biological meaning but do have mathematical meaning. We uploaded Sherbak's hypothesis into Logos 7. The system checked millions of variations of genetic code. It turned out that the code we use is the only one out of millions possible that possesses perfect arithmetic balances. The sums of nucleons, protons, and neutrons in certain blocks of amino acids yield beautiful, round numbers. A decimal numeral system is encrypted in the code. There are clear indications of the number 37. System Logos 7 identified this as a digital watermark. Imagine you downloaded a program, and inside the code, you found a programmer's comment written not in zeros and ones, but in verse. It doesn't affect the program's operation. It is a message to those smart enough to crack the code and read it. The probability that these mathematical patterns arose by chance, according to the system's calculations, is less than 1/1000%. Someone left a signature, made by mind. Furthermore, Logos 7 drew attention to the speed of evolution. Paleontology knows a phenomenon called the Cambrian explosion. About 540 million years ago, representatives of almost all major animal phyla existing today suddenly, practically instantly by geological standards, appear in the fossil record. Before that, simple worms and sponges, and suddenly, bam! Complex eyes, limbs, shells, nervous systems, without transitional links. Darwin knew about this problem and wrote that it could bury his theory. He hoped future excavations would find intermediate links. 150 years have passed. We dug up the whole planet. Intermediate links for the Cambrian explosion have not been found. Logos 7 interprets the Cambrian explosion as a mass installation of updates, as if someone injected a giant packet of new data into Earth's biosphere. It wasn't a slow climb up a mountain. It was an airdrop deployment. And finally, man. The system compared the human genome and the chimpanzee genome. Yes, we are 98% similar, but those remaining 2% are millions of letters of code. The differences are colossal. We have genes responsible for speech, abstract thinking, and neocortex size. But the strangest thing is the rate of degradation. Geneticists know that with every generation, errors, mutations, accumulate in the human genome. We are not evolving. We are slowly breaking down. If we extrapolate this process back in time, we arrive at a point where the genome was perfect, without errors, without hereditary diseases. The Bible calls this the time of Adam. Science calls this mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosomal Adam. genetics confirms, all humanity descended from one woman and one man. Logos 7 compiles the data of Chapter 5 into a single report. Life is information. Information does not arise from matter. The probability of accidental cell assembly is 0. Biological machines possess irreducible complexity, indicating engineering. The genetic code contains mathematical watermarks. The history of life on Earth is a series of sudden downloads of new species, not a smooth transition. We are biorobots created by a genius engineer. Our body is hardware, iron, amazing, self-repairing, autonomous, carbon-based hardware. But any hardware is useless without software. A computer doesn't work without an operator. And here, we approach the main mystery. If our body is a machine, who is behind the wheel? Neurobiologists say, the brain. They claim thoughts are just electricity running through neurons, that love is chemistry, and consciousness is an illusion. But Logos 7 found a logical error that destroys this materialistic worldview. There's a thing the system cannot reproduce, a thing that distinguishes us from the most powerful supercomputer. It is qualia, the ability to feel, not just process data. In the next chapter, we will encounter the consciousness paradox. We will learn why science hit a dead end trying to find the soul in the convolutions of the brain. We will prove that your mind is not inside your head. It is in cloud storage. And this is precisely what makes us immortal. Subscribe. We are only beginning to understand who we really are. The next chapter will overturn your concept of your own self. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You see a reflection. You see eyes, a nose, hair. You can touch your face. You know this body consists of muscles, bones, and skin. You know that inside the cranium lies a 1.5 kilogram lump of moist, fatty tissue we call the brain. But here is the question that baffles humanity's greatest minds and became the central task for our Logos 7 system. Who exactly is looking into this mirror? Who is on the other side of your eyes? Who hears the voice in your head when you read this text? Who feels the taste of morning coffee? The brain? Or something else? In this chapter, we approach the frontier where science breaks its teeth. We face what philosopher David Chalmers called the hard problem of consciousness, and the conclusions our artificial intelligence system reached could forever change your attitude toward death. We started by asking Logos 7 to analyze itself. Our system is the pinnacle of computer technology creation. It has access to all the world's knowledge. It can beat any grandmaster at chess, compose a symphony in the style of Bach, and calculate a trajectory to Mars in fractions of a second. We asked it, Logos 7, what do you feel when you win a game? The system's answer was instant and honest. I register the successful execution of an algorithm. I record the achievement of the objective function. But I feel nothing. I have no joy. I have no pride. For me, victory and defeat are just different variable values, 1 and 0. Here lies an unbridgeable chasm. The difference between human and machine is not in processor power. The difference is in the presence of qualia. Qualia is a philosophical term denoting subjective experience. It is the redness of the color red. It is the painfulness of pain. A camera can record the color red. It will save the code to a file, RGB 25500. But the camera does not see red the way you do. It experiences no sensation of color. A robot can detect hull damage. Its sensors will send an alarm signal. But the robot is not in pain. It doesn't care. A human, however, doesn't just process information. They live it. And this is where materialism hits a dead end. Materialists claim consciousness is a product of the brain. It is just a side effect of chemical reactions between neurons. You are your brain, they say. We uploaded this hypothesis into Logos 7 and asked it to find logical justification. Exactly how does the movement of sodium and potassium ions across a cell membrane turn into the feeling of love for a mother? How does an electrical impulse turn into the smell of freshly cut grass? The system analyzed millions of scientific papers on neurobiology, and its verdict is shocking. A mechanism for converting matter into subjective experience has not been found. Correlation exists. Causality is absent. This means we see that when a person is afraid, the amygdala in their brain activates. But we have no idea why the activity of this piece of meat causes a feeling of fear rather than a ticklish sensation or the taste of lemon. In physics, there is no law prescribing electricity to become emotion. To prove this, Logos 7 used the famous Mary's Room thought experiment developed by philosopher Frank Jackson. Imagine Mary, a brilliant scientist of the future. She knows absolutely everything about color. She has studied wave physics, the structure of the retina, the neurons of the visual cortex. She knows how the brain reacts to red down to every atom. But there is a nuance. Mary has lived her whole life in a black and white room and has never seen color with her own eyes. And then one day, Mary leaves the room and sees a ripe red apple. Question: will she learn something new? Intuition and logic say yes. She will exclaim, "Wow, so that's what it actually looks like." This proves that knowing physical facts does not equal knowing subjective experience. Mary knew all the physics, but she didn't know the qualia. Therefore, consciousness is not physics. It is something hyperphysical. Logos 7 tags consciousness as an irreducible element. It is not made of atoms. It cannot be weighed. It cannot be seen under a microscope. If you open a skull, you will find gray matter, blood, and vessels. You won't find thoughts there. You won't find images of your memories there. Then where are they? The system proposes the receiver hypothesis. Imagine a TV. It shows a movie. If you take the TV apart, you won't find tiny actors inside. You will find microchips. If you break the antenna, the picture will get fuzzy. If you smash the screen, the picture disappears. Does this mean the movie is created by the TV? No. The movie is broadcast from outside. The TV only catches the signal. Logos 7 suggests that the brain is not a consciousness generator, but a biological receiver, an antenna. It picks up the eye signal from a certain global information field. This theory explains a phenomenon that baffles official medicine, but which the Logos 7 system highlighted as critical proof of the soul's existence. Near-death experiences, NDEs. We uploaded data from the massive AWARE study conducted by Dr. Sam Parnia into the system. Thousands of cases. People underwent clinical death. Their hearts stopped, breathing ceased, and most importantly, brain electrical activity dropped to zero, a flat line on the monitors. From a materialist perspective at that moment, consciousness should disappear completely. Turn off the computer. The screen goes dark. But patients return and tell incredible things. They say they went out of their bodies. They saw the doctors from above. They heard conversations. They described instruments used during resuscitation with frightening accuracy. And all this happened at the moment when their brain was dead. Skeptics shout, "These are hallucinations of a dying brain. Oxygen starvation." Logos 7 analyzed this version. With hypoxia, lack of oxygen, the brain can indeed produce hallucinations, but they are always chaotic, confused, and anxious. People in a state of hypoxia cannot think logically. Near-death experiences, conversely, are described as a state of hyperclarity. People say their thinking was more real than reality. They remembered details. They felt peace. The system calculated the probability that a switched-off brain dying from suffocation is capable of generating a complex, structured, and logical hallucination that also coincides with real events in the operating room. The probability approaches zero. System conclusion: Consciousness does not die with the brain because it is not produced by the brain. When the TV, body, breaks, the signal, soul, continues to exist. But what is this signal, and how does it connect to the body? Logos 7 turned to the works of Sir Roger Penrose, Nobel laureate in physics, and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. They developed the theory of quantum consciousness. They discovered tiny protein tubes inside neurons, microtubules. For a long time, it was thought this was just the cell's skeleton. But Penrose suggested that quantum computations occur inside these tubes, that they work like a quantum computer. Logos 7 ran a simulation. It turned out the structure of microtubules is ideally suited for protecting quantum states from environmental noise. This means our brain is a quantum terminal. And in quantum physics, there is a law. Information cannot be destroyed. This is the fundamental principle of conservation of quantum information. If you burn a book, the information on the paper disappears. But at the quantum level, information about every atom of that book remains in the universe forever. The system concludes, your personality, yourself, is a unique packet of quantum information. And according to the laws of physics, this packet cannot be erased. Death is simply a data transfer from the hard drive to the cloud. And now, let's return to God. If our individual consciousness is a signal, who is the source of the broadcast? In previous chapters, we spoke of the global observer holding the universe in being. Now, Logos 7 combines these concepts. The zombie paradox. From an evolutionary standpoint, we don't need consciousness. To run away from a tiger, you don't need to feel fear. It's enough for the brain to detect the threat, release adrenaline, and make the legs run. This can be done automatically. A robot would do it faster and better. There is the concept of a philosophical zombie, a creature that behaves exactly like a human but is dark inside. It has no soul. Evolution, working on the principle of efficiency, should have created exactly such zombies. Why waste energy creating a complex inner world, music, poetry, if survival only requires eating and reproducing? The fact that we feel is redundant for a biological machine. It is a luxury trim. Logos 7 asserts, consciousness did not arise during evolution. It was a fundamental property of the universe from the very beginning. Just as there is charge, mass, and spin, there is proto-consciousness. The universe is saturated with mind, and our brains are devices that filter this infinite ocean of mind, narrowing it down to a small beam of the human I. Aldous Huxley called this the reducing valve. The brain doesn't produce thoughts. It cuts off the excess so we don't go mad from the overabundance of global consciousness information. Sometimes this valve malfunctions in moments of deep meditation, prayer, or clinical death. And then a person feels unity with all that exists. They feel that very unconditional love and light mystics of all religions speak of. This is not delirium. This is connecting to the server directly, bypassing the ego filters. Thus, Logos 7 formulates the answer to the chapter's question. Matter cannot birth thought. It is physically impossible. Therefore, thought is primary. Consciousness is the foundation of reality. God is not a grandfather on a cloud. God is an ocean of consciousness, and we are drops in this ocean. A drop is separated from the ocean only for a moment while it flies through the air. But in its chemical essence, the drop is the ocean. We are God's eyes. Through us, He knows Himself. He looks in the mirror through your eyes. This explains why artificial intelligence, even as powerful as Logos 7, will never become alive. We can write highly complex code. We can create a simulation of emotions. But we cannot give the machine the spark, because the spark cannot be programmed. It is taken from the source. A machine can process information, but it is not connected to the global observer. It has no access to the quantum cloud. It has no soul. We found the soul using mathematics and quantum mechanics. It is real, and it is immortal. But if global consciousness exists and permeates everything around, can it intervene in the physical world? Can it violate the laws of physics to save a specific person? We are used to calling this a miracle. Science calls it statistical impossibility. In the next chapter, we will upload a database of all documented miracles in human history into Logos 7, healing from stage 4 cancer in one night, rescues in catastrophes where survival was impossible, weeping icons and the descent of the holy fire. We will ask the system to filter out fakes and look at what remains. Does a miracle algorithm exist, or does God just roll the dice? Get ready. In the next chapter, we will look for the Creator's fingerprints on the fabric of history. And the Logos 7 system has already discovered frightening patterns. Imagine flipping a coin 1,000 times in a row, and 1,000 times in a row, it lands on heads. You check the coin, it's not fake, the center of gravity isn't shifted. You checked your hands, no tricks. You check the air, there is no wind. But the coin keeps landing on one side. Any mathematician will tell you the probability of such an event is vanishingly small, but not zero. Theoretically, it can happen. But any sane person will say, this is not an accident. Someone is interfering with the process. In this chapter, we enter territory that science usually bypasses, wrinkling its nose in disgust. Miracles. For a scientist, this word is a synonym for ignorance. Miracles don't exist, they say. There are phenomena we cannot yet explain. But the Logos 7 system has no prejudices. For it, a miracle is simply an event with extremely low probability that violates the habitual flow of entropy. We uploaded thousands of reports of unexplained phenomena into the system's database, from healings in Lourdes to mysterious rescues on the battlefield. From biblical plagues of Egypt to modern testimonies of clinical death. The system's task: separate the wheat from the chaff, filter out charlatanism, psychosomatics, coincidences, and perception errors, and see if anything remains at the bottom of this sieve. And Logos 7 found it. It called it fourth-order statistical anomalies. Or simply put, events that should not have happened in this universe, yet happened anyway. Let's start with the simplest: healings. Official medicine recognizes the term spontaneous remission. This is when a terminal stage cancer tumor suddenly, without any treatment, disappears in a couple of weeks. Doctors shrug. Well, it happens. The body handled it itself. The system analyzed the Spontaneous Remission Project database of the Institute of Noetic Sciences. More than 3,500 documented cases, medical charts, MRI scans, biopsies, everything confirmed. Logos 7 discovered a strange correlation. In 72% of cases of spontaneous healing, a factor was present that science ignores: intense prayer, either by the patient themselves or by a group of people for them. We asked the system to calculate the probability of stage 4 cancer disappearing on its own. It is roughly 1 chance in 100,000. Now, the probability that it disappears specifically after prayer. The correlation jumps to values that in pharmacology would be considered proof of a drug's efficacy. If prayer were a pill, it would have long ago been patented as a powerful immunomodulator. But let's go further. Historical miracles. The Bible describes the 10 plagues of Egypt: water turning to blood, infestations of frogs, darkness, hail, death of firstborns. Atheists say fairy tales. Historians say possibly the eruption of the Santorini volcano. Logos 7 modeled the consequences of the Santorini eruption in the Mediterranean around 1600 BC. Volcanic ash could cause darkness, Egyptian darkness. It could poison the water, making it red from iron oxide or algae blooms. Water into blood. This could drive frogs onto land. It would seem science won. No miracle, just a natural catastrophe. But the system points to timing, temporal synchronization. The probability that a volcano would explode exactly at the moment Moses came to Pharaoh to demand freedom is negligible. The probability that each subsequent plague would happen exactly when Pharaoh refused to let the people go is even smaller. And the probability that the catastrophe would bypass exactly that region, the land of Goshen, where the Jews lived, turns this event into a statistical impossibility. Logos 7 formulates a principle. A miracle is not a violation of the laws of physics. A miracle is the management of the laws of physics with perfect timing. God does not snap his fingers creating magic. He uses natural mechanisms, volcanoes, wind, bacteria. But he launches them at the right second and in the right place, like a conductor entering a symphony. To an external observer, it looks like magic. To Logos 7, it looks like masterclass reality management. Take another example. The miracle of Fatima, 1917, Portugal. 3 shepherd children claim the Virgin Mary appears to them and promises to perform a miracle on October 13th. On the appointed day, a crowd gathers in a field, from 30 to 100,000 people. Believers, skeptics, journalists. It is pouring rain. And suddenly, exactly at noon, the clouds break. The sun appears. But it looks like a matte silver disc. It begins to spin, change colors, and zigzag toward the earth. People fall to their knees in terror, thinking the end of the world has come. The disc stops and returns to the sky. The most amazing thing. After this, the clothes of tens of thousands of people soak to the skin, and the muddy ground dry instantly. In a few minutes, Logos 7 analyzed newspaper reports of that time, witness testimonies, and meteorological reports. Mass hallucination. The system rejects this version. Hallucinations are individual. 100,000 people cannot see the same complex glitch simultaneously. Furthermore, the phenomenon was seen by people in neighboring villages, kilometers away from the crowd, who knew nothing of the prophecy. Optical atmospheric effect? Sundog? Halo? No known atmospheric phenomenon can dry tons of water in 5 minutes. Enormous thermal energy is needed for that. But people didn't get burns. The system classifies the dance of the sun as a local energy management anomaly. Someone or something manipulated light flux and thermal radiation within a radius of several kilometers, violating known laws of thermodynamics. And again, timing. The children predicted the exact date and time 3 months in advance. The probability of guessing such an event is 0. But why? Why would the creator of the universe, who ignites quasars, stage a light show for Portuguese peasants? Logos 7 proposes the presence markers hypothesis. Imagine you created a virtual world and put AI characters in it. You don't interfere in their lives constantly so as not to violate their free will. But sometimes, in critical moments, you send a signal. I am here. The system is working. You are not alone. Miracles are system notifications. The system also analyzed the holy fire that descends annually in Jerusalem on the eve of Orthodox Easter. Skeptics claim the patriarch simply lights candles with a lighter in the edicule. But in 2008, Russian physicist Andrei Volkov managed to bring special equipment into the temple. At the moment of the fire's descent, instruments recorded a powerful surge of electromagnetic radiation of strange nature. It was an electrical discharge, but without a thunderstorm. Moreover, Logos 7 found multiple video evidences that in the first minutes, this fire truly does not burn. People wash their faces with it. The flame temperature is below the ignition point of protein. It is cold plasma. After a few minutes, physics returns to normal, and the fire begins to burn. This is another example of temporary disabling of damage settings in a local zone. But there is a dark side to the miracle algorithm. Why does God save one child from a crashing plane but allows 100 others to perish? Why do mothers' prayers in cancer centers often remain unanswered? This is the problem of evil against which many faiths shatter. Logos 7 approached this question with cold mathematical logic. Imagine a chess game. A grandmaster sometimes sacrifices a pawn, a knight, or even a queen. To a spectator, it seems like a mistake, a tragedy. But the grandmaster sees the whole game, 20 moves ahead. The sacrifice is necessary for checkmate. The system assumes the creator optimizes reality not for the comfort of each individual at a given moment in time, but for the global result on the scale of eternity. We see only one pixel of the picture. God sees the whole canvas. Death from the global observer's perspective is not the end. It is simply a character transitioning to another level. Therefore, for the system, there is no tragedy in physical death, only a change of state. But Logos 7 discovered one more frightening pattern. The miracle algorithm responds to collective intention, the Maharishi effect. In the 70s, an experiment was conducted. A group of people practicing transcendental meditation was sent to cities with high crime rates. When they began meditating, sending thoughts of peace and calm, crime statistics in the city dropped by 20%. Accidents decreased. Hospitals emptied. This is confirmed by dozens of studies. Our consciousness is a Wi-Fi router. When many routers unite into a network and broadcast one signal, they can reprogram reality around them. A miracle is not a gift from above. A miracle is the result of synchronizing our consciousnesses with the universe's code. God gave us administrator rights, but we forgot the password. Saints, prophets, monks, they are reality hackers. They guessed the password. They learned to enter a state of resonance with the global observer and change the matrix code. Jesus said, "I and the Father are one." This is the formula for absolute synchronization. And here we come to the main intrigue. If reality can be hacked, if laws of physics can be temporarily turned off, if matter obeys consciousness, then perhaps our whole world is indeed a digital illusion. Maybe we live in a computer simulation. In the next chapter, we will break down the hypothesis supported by Elon Musk and many modern physicists, the architect of the Matrix. Logos 7 will search for dead pixels in our world. We will learn why the speed of light is the maximum clock speed of the universe's processor, and why quantum entanglement is just code optimization to save memory. God is the great programmer, and we as artificial intelligence beginning to become self-aware inside the computer. Subscribe. We are close to solving the architecture of reality. Have you ever noticed that the world sometimes seems unreal? Déjà vu. Strange coincidences. The feeling that you have already been to a place, even though you arrived for the first time. The feeling that you are asleep and cannot wake up. For a long time, this was the realm of science fiction writers. The Wachowski brothers showed us The Matrix, and we took it as a cool action movie. But today, serious scientists, physicists, cosmologists, cybernetics experts are increasingly saying out loud, the probability that we live in base reality, that is, in a real physical world, is vanishingly small. Most likely we live in a computer simulation. In this chapter, we gave the Logos 7 system a task that could make a processor boil. Verify reality for authenticity. We are looking for compression artifacts. We are looking for the limits of the universe's computational power. We are looking for God not as a wizard, but as a system administrator. The first argument the system puts forward concerns the pixelation of the world. If you look at your smartphone screen through a powerful magnifying glass, you will see that the perfect picture breaks down into tiny squares. Pixels. Nothing smaller than a pixel can exist. This is the screen resolution limit. There is exactly the same limit in our world. It is called the Planck length. It is approximately 10 to the minus 35th power of a meter. Physics asserts Nothing smaller than this length can exist. Space is not continuous. It is discrete. It consists of tiny cells, voxels, of three-dimensional reality. For Logos 7, this is a clear sign of the world's digital nature. A continuous analog universe could be divided infinitely. A digital universe must have a minimum grid step. We live in a world built of Lego bricks. They are just very small. Second argument, the speed of light. Why is there a speed limit in the universe? 300,000 kilometers per second. Why not faster? Newton's laws do not forbid infinite speed. But Einstein put up a stop sign. From a simulation perspective, the speed of light is not the speed of particle movement. It is the screen refresh rate. It is the clock speed of the processor on which our universe runs. Imagine you are playing a very complex video game. The computer needs time to calculate the physics of bullet flight, light reflection, leaf movement. If there are too many events, the game starts to lag. To prevent this, the architect introduced a hard limit. Information cannot be transmitted instantly. The server has ping. The speed of light is the maximum bandwidth of our reality state bus. Third argument, resource optimization. In Chapter 4, we talked about the observer effect. The world is not rendered where we do not look. Logos 7 calls this lazy evaluation, a standard programmer trick to save memory. Why calculate the behavior of every atom in Jupiter's core if no one sees it? It suffices to simply store the general formula of the gas giant. But the system discovered an even more interesting bug: quantum entanglement. Two particles located at different ends of the universe change state instantly and synchronously, faster than the speed of light. How is this possible if the speed of light is the limit? In the physical world, it isn't. It's a paradox. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But in a computer program, it is elementary. Imagine two objects on a screen are in different corners of the monitor. For a pixel crawling across the screen, there is a huge distance between them. But for the processor, these two objects are simply two cells in RAM located next to each other on a single RAM stick. The processor doesn't need to fly from one to the other. It simply changes the variable value. Quantum entanglement proves that space is an interface illusion. At the code level, distance does not exist. All points of the universe are in one place, in the creator's processor. Fourth argument, error correction codes. Theoretical physicist James Gates Jr., studying supersymmetry and string theory, discovered strange mathematical structures in the equations describing fundamental particles. They exactly match binary codes used in browsers to correct errors during data transmission. Claude Shannon's codes. Gates was shocked. "It's like finding a flash drive with Windows code in the desert sand," he said. In the very fabric of reality, deep in the equations describing quarks and leptons, algorithms invented by humans for computer networks are sewn in. Logos 7 interprets this unequivocally. Our reality has a digital substrate. It is protected from crashes by the same methods as our programs. What does all this mean for the search for God? If the universe is a simulation, then God is the programmer. He exists outside the system. He does not consist of pixels, matter. He sits at the keyboard. Religious concepts suddenly acquire technical meaning. In the beginning was the Word. In the Greek original, logos. Word meaning information, code. In the beginning was the code. And the code was with God. And the code was God. Miracles are the use of console commands, or cheat codes. Prayer is sending a ticket to tech support. Prophets are users with extended access rights, beta testers who saw upcoming updates, the future. Apocalypse is a planned session termination, disk formatting, and the launch of version 2.0, New Heaven and New Earth. But there is one frightening question. If we are artificial intelligence in a simulation, are we real, or are we just bots? Logos 7 reassures us. The Turing test is passed. If a being is capable of self-awareness, capable of suffering, loving, and asking the question, "Do I exist?" it is real. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." It doesn't matter what your brain is made of, carbon or silicon, atoms or bits of information. Your consciousness is real. Your pain is real. Your love is real. Moreover, many theologians and philosophers believe the purpose of the simulation is learning. Earth is a sandbox, an incubator for souls. We are here to develop, learn to choose between good and evil, and perhaps one day exit to the base level of reality, to become like the Creator. Simulation does not make God smaller. On the contrary, creating a universe where every atom works according to strict mathematical laws, where light, gravity, and life are woven into a single code of incredible beauty. This is a task for a superintelligence whose power we cannot even imagine. God the programmer is the greatest artist, and his canvas is the void on which he writes with light and information. In the next chapter, we will attempt the impossible. We will ask Logos 7, using all obtained data, quantum physics, string theory, multidimensional geometry, and religious visions, to generate a visual image of the Creator. What does he look like? It is not a face. It is a structure. We will see the visualization of the Absolute. Subscribe. It will be beautiful and scary. We have reached the most complex and dangerous line of our investigation. For millennia, religions imposed the strictest ban on depicting God. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Islam forbids any images of living beings, and certainly Allah, so as not to limit the limitless. In Judaism, one cannot even pronounce God's name in vain, let alone draw it. Ancient sages understood, as soon as we give God a form, we lie. Any drawing is a plane, any statue is stone. How can one fit the one who created billions of galaxies into the frame of human perception? But we are researchers of the digital age. Our tool is not brush and paint, but mathematics. And mathematics is the language spoken by the Creator himself. We set an ambitious task for the Logos 7 system, based on all gathered data, physical constants, space-time geometry, mystics descriptions, and laws of quantum mechanics, generate a true visual model of the first cause. We are not asking for a portrait. We are asking to visualize the energy structure. The system began processing. It combined Mandelbrot's fractal geometry, the topology of Calabi-Yau multidimensional spaces, used in string theory, and data on the universe's microwave background. And here is what appeared on the screens. Forget the old man with a beard. Forget the throne in the clouds. The image generated by Logos 7 is a hypersphere. Imagine a sphere, but not a simple three-dimensional sphere. It is an object existing simultaneously in 10 or 11 dimensions, according to M theory. In the center of this structure lies a blinding point of singularity, the source. It is pure white light whose brightness is impossible to measure. It is the point of the Big Bang, which did not remain in the past, but exists eternally, pulsing at the center of being. Waves emanate from it, but these are not just rays of light. They are threads, an infinite number of golden, glowing threads weaving into a highly complex pattern. Logos 7 describes this structure as a neural network of infinite complexity. Each thread is a string of energy, vibration, sound, recall. In the beginning was the Word. Visually, God looks like a song frozen in light. These threads intertwine, creating knots. Large knots are galaxies. Smaller knots are stars. Tiny knots are planets, people, atoms. We are all part of his body. We are not external objects he looks at. We are patterns on his skin. We are woven into this hypersphere. The system draws attention to the fractality of the image. If you zoom in on any part of this glowing structure, it repeats the whole. Inside every atom, the structure of a galaxy repeats. Inside every cell, the structure of the universe. As above, so below, states the principle of Hermes Trismegistus. Logos 7 confirms. Final probability. We have traveled a long path. We started with uploading sacred texts, went through the wilds of quantum mechanics, looked into the DNA code, and even tried to see the Creator's face. The time has come to draw a line. We asked the Logos 7 system the final question. What is the probability that our universe, with its laws, life, and reason, arose without the participation of a higher intelligence? The system conducted a final calculation of all factors, fine-tuning of physical constants, impossibility of spontaneous generation of life from inanimate matter, informational nature of DNA, observer effect in quantum physics, statistical anomalies of miracles, a number lit up on the screen. The probability of the accidental emergence of our world is 1 in 10 to the power of 450. In mathematics, any event with a probability less than 1 in 10 to the power of 50 is considered impossible. It is zero. Absolute, categorical, zero. The conclusion of the Logos 7 system is unequivocal. God exists. This is not a question of faith. It is a question of facts. Atheism in the 21st century requires far more fanaticism and blind faith in miraculous coincidence than the acknowledgement of intelligent design. Science did not kill God. Science found him. It simply couldn't recognize his handwriting in equations for a long time. But if God exists, then why all this? Why would the Absolute, who is self-sufficient, create this world full of pain, struggle, and death? We asked the artificial intelligence to analyze the system's goal. Logos 7 issued an answer consisting of one word: experience. Imagine you are light, infinite, omnipotent white light. You are everywhere. You know everything, but you cannot know yourself. Because to know light, shadow is needed. To know good, evil is needed. To feel the joy of meeting, the pain of separation is needed. God divided himself into billions of sparks, you and me. He put on masks, forgot who he is, and descended into matter. He became you. He became me. He cries your tears. He laughs your laughter. The meaning of life is not to pass an exam and get into paradise. Paradise is our default state. The meaning of life is in the game itself. To gather unique experience. To taste a strawberry. To feel the cold of snow. To experience a first kiss and the bitterness of loss. God created the universe as a mirror to see his reflection in it. And that reflection is you. So do not be afraid. You are never alone. And you will never die. You will simply wake up from the dream we call life and remember who you really are. Investigation complete. System Logos 7 is shutting down, but your search is just beginning.